Hi, this is Roy Collin of the Speaking Podcast, and welcome to episode number 18. Today I had Piotr Chimko, who is the District Director of Area 108, which covers 5 countries. He's a Toastmaster for over 8 years, but he's also a member of the Polish Speaking Association, so he's plenty of experience in public speaking, and he's shared a lot of his knowledge on preparing speeches and everything, so I'm sure you'll enjoy it. As always, you can find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, Speaking Podcast, and you can email me with any comments, roy@speakingpodcast.com. All the episodes are different, so be sure to go back to the start and listen to them all, because you'll get some great knowledge from each one. And if you enjoy, please give us a rating on the platform that you're listening to, positive rating, and because it helps us get more exposure. Hope you enjoy the show. Thank you. Hi, this is Roy Collin of the Speaking Podcast, and today I've got a very special guest. He's actually a District Director of Area 108, I believe. So
District 108.
District 108, sorry, yeah. So please welcome Piotr Chimko.
Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon.
Exactly, because people from all over the world, different times.
It's
and
a global village.
Exactly, and we don't know what time they're going to listen to the podcast.
Exactly.
So normally how I start off is prior to, the Toastmaster journey and everything, your actually speaking journey of when, assuming you didn't like speaking, to how it came about and everything.
Well, it's my first speaking experience was in my high school when my teacher, maths teacher, asked me to explain a certain solution, not to himself but to the class. So I stood in front of the class and suddenly my hands became wet, my knees became trembling, and that was my first public speaking experience. Not a good first shot.
Yeah.
But then, I grew. I did some small events in my high school, university. I started liking it. So when the Toastmasters came, I came to Toastmasters not because of the fear of public speaking, but I found it a great place to practice the things I wouldn't normally try in production, how I say it. I could try a number of different things that normally I would be afraid to try. For example, in the business. But there I can try anything and see if it works or it does not work. And if it works, I apply it to my real life. That's how I find Toastmasters a great place for everybody, not only for those who are really afraid of public speaking, but also for those who know how to do it, but they want to expand their capabilities.
Yeah. And like you mentioned about the school, because I remember, especially, I don't really remember much about the primary school, but from 13 on, I remember the teacher used to make his stand up and he'd read the book, and I used to be terrified, like you mentioned, the hands. And I think it scars people for years. They should have a system in the schools where they're doing it in groups, make it fun, so that they don't change them to actually hate public speaking for years.
Yeah, that's what happens. There is a program in Toastmasters, it's also part of Toastmasters, it's called Youth Leadership Program, and it's like a snippet of Toastmasters program for the youth, for the teenagers. And if I had that when I was like 15 or 14, that would help tremendously. And after I finish my directorship and I have some more time that I can dedicate in Toastmasters, I would love to do a youth leadership program in 1 or 2 schools. My sons are in primary school, so maybe when in 1 or 2 years, that would be a really great thing for them to try.
Is that the Gavel Club? Is that what it's called?
No, Gavel Club is a different thing. Gavel Club is like a small Toastmasters club for teenagers, and it lasts, so it's like a Toastmasters club. But youth leadership program is limited to 8 meetings. So actually it's like a training for those guys in high school, for the youth guys, for the young people in schools, to try things, to try the public speaking. They get on, they give speeches, they give icebreaker, they share their experience and things like we do in Toastmasters. But it's for the youth. So it's like a limited program. You can run it. It lasts for 3 months, and then it's over.
No, very good. Yeah, like my son is 5, and I know you have 3 children.
I think,
wouldn't you love for them to have what you know, if you can implement that, I think it'd be incredible.
I try to work with them with what I know. So my oldest my oldest son, when he's telling things to a group, he's doing it in the right way.
Nice. Oh, very good, very good. And like one of the things, because I know you about 2 years, and the thing that I was extremely impressed with was that you entered a competition and you actually done extremely well, but it was in a language that you don't speak.
Yeah, that's a big story. Actually, that what started as a fun, as it was really supposed to be like a fun thing. It ended up to be one of my major successes on stage, and it started with we have a German friend, Klaus.
Mm-hmm.
He is the best friend of Polish Toastmasters, and there was this conference, the district conference, like when district was that was the last district conference of the Toastmasters as a whole Europe, the whole European conference.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up. He had already some booze, so he said, Piotr, I want to take a challenge. I said, like what? I want to give a speech in Polish. Oh, do you? Then let's do it. You write a speech, I translate it for you, I will record it for you so that you can master the pronunciation, and then you just get on the stage and give the speech. That's a great thing. I say, okay, let's do it. And he said, let me give it a bit of a thought. I tell you, I'm confirmed tomorrow. So to raise stakes a little bit, I said, if you give a speech in Polish, I will give a speech in German. So there's a thing that you need to know. I don't speak German at all, like null, nada, nothing. And he said, the next day he comes up and said, deal. And I said, okay. And then in 3 months he gets on the stage. So he wrote a speech. I translated it for him. I recorded it for him. So we had a few rehearsals. He couldn't master he couldn't master it. He didn't learn it by heart. So he came on the stage with a paper. But it was like a big stage, like 450 people in the room. And he started with words, good day, everybody. My name is Klaus Roth. I will be speaking to you in Polish. So he already got the ovation, and he took out his paper, and he started giving his speech. And it was a great speech about the Polish-German difficult relationships. It was not very long, but it was very friendly. And he ended with something, with words which are really, really powerful. He said, do you know why I'm doing it in Polish? It's a matter of respect. And that was the end of his speech, and he got a standing ovation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, world champions of public speaking do not get anything even close to that. He got a standing 2-minute ovation. He was like, hovering over the stage. Like, he got off the stage, he comes to me, now your turn. I said, okay. But then, I was division director, and I didn't have time. So months passed, and my speech wasn't existing. After division director, there's a next role in the leadership. There's a so-called district trio. I applied to district trio, but then before I applied, I realized I have never been a club president. And to be in the district trio, you need to have served the 6 months as club president. So as I say, when life throws lemons, I make lemonade. So I stepped out of the district leadership for a year, and I said that's the time, my contest time. Because you cannot compete when you're in the district leadership team. So I said, I'm going to take part in the contests. And then it dawned on me that in English, it would be very difficult to get on the stage on the district because there's huge competition. But then in German, it's not a big competition. There's not so many people who take part in contests in German. So when Klaus called me a few days later and asked, how is my speech? I said, are you going to be in Prague? And he paused for a second. He said, "You're going to compete?" "Yes, my friend. You are crazy. No more than you are." Then the Prague was in 3 months. So I wrote a speech. He translated it for me. He recorded it for me. I rehearsed it I don't know how many times after I really could pronounce it properly. And then we had a few rehearsal sessions. And then once I really learned it by heart, after that I started really repeating it, so that it's a contest. It was a contest speech. So there was no room for improvisation, because once I lose it, I cannot say anything else.
Yeah.
So when someone asks me, do you speak German? I say, I can say 490 words in a specific order. So after 3 years, I can still give that speech. So that's very funny. When I tried last time, I could almost give it full, like, it's really, you could actually wake me up in the night, in the middle of the night, say one word from my speech, I could give, like, the rest of the speech. And so you need to know that to get on the district, you need to win in the club level, area, and division. Luckily, there was no other contestant on this level. So even when I was reading my speech from paper, the contest speech, I was still winning. But at the district, there were eight contestants, and I was the contestant number 3. So they say contestant number 3, Piotr Chimko, eine verrückte Idee. And I got on the stage and I gave the speech. It was fun. People were laughing, and it was a one-of-a-kind experience. So I got off the stage, and in the evening they were giving at the gala dinner. They were giving the awards. So they say the 3rd place in German speech contest goes to Piotr Chimko. I said, what? That was totally unexpected. I came there to have some fun, to try how it is on the district contest stage. But I got the third prize in the European German speech contest, which was really great. I mean, I felt appreciated. And actually, when I look now, because that's the speech I recorded, when I look at the speech, it's still funny.
I've actually watched it on YouTube, and the fact that
there are subtitles,
if there was no subtitles, but it was a really funny speech. And what I'll do on the podcast is I'll actually give the link to that video, because you will see, that it was incredible, to be honest.
It was really fun. I mean, it's not a professional recording, because there's no professional recording. So I asked my wife to record it, so she did, and the quality of recording could be better, but it's still good. And I found it really fun. So I learned 3 things from that. So one thing is that I learned what excellence is. So I spent square 100 hours learning the speech. So there was no surprise. I mean, everything was perfect. And if we put 100 hours into 7-minute speech, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot, yeah.
But it's excellence. I mean, and I learned how much excellence costs. It costs a lot. So, and obviously the effect then is absolutely stunning. Even now when I look at it, I'm still surprised I could do it. And then the second thing is that, people, when I give trainings on public speaking, people very often ask me, should I learn my speech by heart? And I say, you don't have to, you may. And people always have this argument that if you learn your speech by heart, you look unnatural. And actually that's I learned that it's totally opposite. When you learn your speech by heart, but I mean really by heart, like happy birthday, when you learn the happy birthday method.
It's like driving, that you don't think. It's just there. Like you said, exactly. You wake up in the morning and you can just rattle it off.
You can sing happy birthday at any time of the year, right? Yeah. And in terms of the day, year, whatever. In any state, even you are drunk like hell, you can still sing happy birthday. It's like with the speech. If you really know your speech by heart, you have a fantastic feeling of being totally in control of your stage behavior, on your contact with the audience, on your voice. There was this moment in the speech when I asked the audience to say something. I didn't plan it. The time goes in slow motion. When you know what you are speaking, you don't have to think what you are saying, but you can totally think and focus on how you're doing it. So there was this moment when I asked, there's no sign that direct us in the direction of Dresden. So there is only sign that says Umleitung, which is when you have to take the other way. Mm-hmm. How to say that? What is the name? Objazd. Diversion. Yeah, exactly. So that's there was the diversion, and there is this sign which says Umleitung. And then normally I would say there was only the signs that said Umleitung. So I actually felt the energy from the audience, and I was ready to ask them for a challenge. So I said there was only one sign. There were only signs that said, and they said Umleitung. And that's this moment when you have this fantastic connection when your audience. So they are with you, they are following you, they are completely fully in the story. So if you learn your speech by heart, you are totally in control. So that's the second thing I learned. And the third thing I learned is that when you try to do some crazy things, totally out of your mind, they can get you to places where you could never dream that you would be. So and that was a huge learning, and I would probably never repeat it. Actually, last year I tried to do a speech in Greek.
Really?
Because as a district director I couldn't compete, but there was like an informal, unofficial contest in Greek and modern Greek in Athens. So everyone was eligible. So I tried it. I actually did the same pattern. So I asked someone to translate the speech for me, to write it down in a phonetic way. But I didn't have that much time. And I actually read the speech from the stage. It was still funny. People still were laughing and I was still appreciating it. But that was not the same thing. So I wouldn't spend another 100 hours doing this thing. So that was like one of a kind experience.
Okay. And have you any ambitions of trying to do an English speak?
Yeah, so as I said, once my directorship is over, and I'm not even sure if the immediate past district director can compete. If that's the case, if I can as soon as I can compete, I will get in the contest in English, definitely. I have a lot of stories in my mind, and I know how to give the contest speech, at least theoretically. So I need to put the theory in practice, and actually it would be great to be on the district contest, on the district finals.
And like, you've done the speech in the German, but for say other competitions, because I remember the first few ones that I done, I know I had a good speech because the content was good, but I didn't do it in the structure of the right way. So how I did, because I'm in the district final now for the humorous speech, and how I actually started off is I looked at the judging criteria and worked backwards. Is that what you did? Or? Exactly.
I mean, I was judging, I don't know how many times, probably more than 50 times during the contest. I've been in Toastmasters for 9.5 years, so there was quite a lot of contests that I took part in, as a judge or as an organizer or even as a contestant. So I exactly know what the judging criteria are, and I can adhere to that. I can plan my speech according to the judging criteria.
And like, you go to a lot of the events. Can you tell the listeners why they're important?
The events?
Yeah.
Well, the events are normally when we meet at Toastmasters, we meet at the club. So there's like a limited group of people who meet weekly to practice public speaking, leadership, and organizing things and whatever Toastmasters is all about. The events is probably the only or the main situation where you meet other Toastmasters, when you can exchange knowledge, when you can meet people who are as crazy as you are, because it takes a little bit of being crazy to spend your free time closed in a room and listening to speeches and giving speeches. So you meet people who are alike, and then you start speaking, and you meet people from different walks of life, and then the only thing that you have in common is that you are part of Toastmasters, but you come from totally different places. You have your totally different backgrounds. You come from small cities, big cities. You are professionals, you are managers, you are specialists, you are experts, you are entrepreneurs. And you work for the state, for example, and it's so much interesting to see how people mingle together and to meet other people. That there are friendships for life coming out of those Toastmasters. There are marriages in Toastmasters. So that's the place to be for the networking. And actually, there are also some businesses that started up in Toastmasters by two people meeting together and having a great idea and starting it off outside of Toastmasters. So yeah, the events is fun, obviously, but it's also so much developing your personality, your relationships, and it's all in this Toastmasters spirit that we accept each other, that we value each other, we appreciate each other, we are open to others' personalities.
And what I like as well is whether it's an evaluation competition or a speech competition, because in the club you'll have a few people that are good, but as you go up through the different levels, they'll inspire you to get better.
So these are contests. Yeah, contests are vital part of contests are vital part of the events like division conferences, district conferences, and that's the moment where you can meet those who are doing things in the best possible way. So they get on the stage and they give speeches that you really want to listen, or they give evaluations which provide so much value not only to the speaker but to the audience, because we learn from the speaker and the evaluation. And that's how also you learn how to give evaluations, not only in Toastmasters but also in life, because what I learned in Toastmasters, how to give feedback, I apply all the time in my company, at home, in almost any relationship I have. When I'm supposed to give feedback, I give it in a Toastmasters way, which is much more efficient than the regular feedback. You're doing it all wrong. So this helps. This really helps. And obviously when you go to the events, there are workshops. Typically there are some workshops, and they are usually very useful. The next event that we are going to have is all about applying the Toastmaster skills in real life. I'm going to give a feedback on, surprise, on feedback. I'm going to give a workshop on feedback.
Yeah, very good, very good. And I remember actually, it was over a year ago that you mentioned that you learnt so much by giving evaluations. And when you said that, because I wasn't that comfortable, I think it was 6 months before I done my first evaluation. But after I heard you saying that, if I wasn't speaking or the Toastmaster, I was giving evaluations. And I think it totally helped me grow, because one, you have to be fully present to the speaker, and then to actually give them constructive feedback that they'll come back the following week, but you're not patting them on the back that, oh, you're brilliant. You're actually advising them, you need to do this, this and this, and it's a great feeling.
Yeah, so there are two things that you learn when you give feedback. You learn to give feedback, and you learn the thing on which you are giving the feedback. So you need to, when we speak about giving feedback on speeches, you need to decompose the speech to find the things that someone is good at, why he is doing it, why it works, and what doesn't work, or what are the things that are not bringing the speaker to his to whatever he wants to achieve, and then advise how to change it. So you really need to be aware what things work, what things don't work, and typically people, even the beginners, they will be able to spot the things which don't work, which they weren't feeling comfortable. And it's always, because we also need to learn how to accept feedback, because the first thing that we need to do is we need to accept the fact that feedback is it's personal.
Criticism?
No, it's not. It's subjective. So it's someone's personal opinion, not the objective final truth. And once you have it, you may agree with it, or you might not. You may accept to agree, or you might accept not to agree with someone. But then you need to accept that it's someone's opinion, and it might be worth to consider. Whatever you do with it, that's your job to do something or not, to accept it or not. But then you need to accept that it's someone's just an opinion, subjective opinion, and it might be worth for you, but it's up to you to decide whether it's worth or not. So once you look at the feedback from that perspective, and then you are much more ready to work on your capabilities.
And I remember one time I was the general evaluator, which basically oversees everything. And there was a person doing I think it was only their second speech, and they got the evaluator who was experienced tore him apart. And then I tore the evaluator apart for doing that, and I picked all the nice points for the thing. And I'm just curious that if the general evaluator doesn't do that, you can come up to the person later, but when you're in the room, have you any advice on that for people?
Basically, things like this happen all the time, because we also learn how to give feedback, and it's not that easy. It's completely not that easy to learn how to give positive feedback. Me myself also sinned. I did the same. I criticized someone. I thought that someone being even more experienced than I was if I do this, it will not harm. It will not do any harm, but it did. So the guy left the club. He moved to another club. So we learn, and it's always good to give feedback. If someone is crossing the line, it's always good to give feedback. I was getting a lot of feedback on my feedbacks from other more or less experienced people, and I was fine-tuning my way of doing feedbacks, doing evaluations. And if someone is really crossing the line, it's a call of VPE, Vice President of Education, to really bring it up, to even publicly to bring it up. There is also always a club business section, which Vice President of Education in such cases might use for the benefit of everybody, for the benefit of club members. So that's something I would advise to do. But there's always anyone can come up and say something. You know, that's a club. We own the club, so we are all. It's okay for all of us to speak up.
Yeah. But what I like as well, it doesn't happen all the time, is when you give the ballots, and if everybody has the ballots, because they're basically rating not only the speakers but the Toastmaster, and that way, even if you did get a bad evaluation, but there's 10 other people saying, I love this, this and this, it's a good way of kind of, you know,
to balance it.
Yeah, exactly, making the situation
But
better.
on the other hand, you know, when you have someone experienced and you clearly see that this person didn't put almost any effort into preparing, and it's a lousy speech, it's totally below expectations, then, I mean, you can point it out in a nice way. Don't criticize it, you have done it all wrong. And I do that towards experienced speaker who I expect something. I said, your speech was not as I expected it to be, because this and this. So you would be much better off if you did this. So and it doesn't hurt. I mean, we shouldn't hurt each other, not only in Toastmaster, but we shouldn't hurt each other in life.
Exactly.
And Toastmasters is supposed to be particularly safe environment, because people really get out of their comfort zone, and if they do it in a safe way and they get used to being out of this comfort zone, then they are better off in a real life. So the safe environment is an important factor of Toastmasters, and it's also we should keep it like this.
And like you mentioned your German speech, you put 100 hours plus into it, but now if you have a speech in the morning or next week, what's your process?
It really depends. It really depends on who I'm speaking to. Is this something I can? Is it like a story I just can tell and sum it up? It's like a 5-minute speech, 10-minute speech, or I have to prepare 2 hours of material. Now I'm preparing for a conference speech, which the speech is supposed to be 45 minutes, and I was given the subject. So it's not me. It's not up to me that I come and I would like to share something. I was given a subject. I was given a theme I need to cover. So that takes I would say, preparing this 45-minute speech, it would take probably 3 to 4 hours to work on it, and then probably 1 or 2 rehearsals. So in total it's 6 hours of preparations for the 45-minute speech. Now for Toastmasters speeches, I tend to prepare, depending. Sometimes I prepare like half an hour when I have everything in my mind. I mean, the preparation process is it takes place all the time, so it's in my mind. But I always put something on the paper. So it's a notes, or it's a structure, or it's a key phrases. I put them on the paper. I don't have the paper with me, but once I put it on the paper, I also tend to write it by my hand, so I don't use the computer. If I write it by my hand, I will memorize it better. Well,
just to interject there, I've read that the nerve endings, when you use your hand, you get better brain, whereas when you're typing, you don't get the same feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's I always, sometimes for the bigger speeches, when there's a lot of ideas interconnected, I do mind maps.
Yeah.
And mind map is a great thing, because I do my brainstorming. I put everything, all ideas on one sheet of paper. Then I check which ideas fit best and how to link them. So some of the ideas, like even for my German speech, there was a part of the speech that I crossed out on the last day because it didn't fit the whole concept. and it was good. So I learned that part, but I crossed it out the last day before the contest. But typically what I do is I do mind maps, and I check which parts fit best and how, if all of them are connectable, because sometimes there's a great idea that could be supporting the case, but it just doesn't connect. It's completely from different world, and it doesn't connect to others, so it's better to skip it, not to mess up with the audience's mind. Just to be really straight, because what I learned also over these years, that the speech has to be really straightforward. You cannot put too many ideas, it cannot be too complex, it cannot be too fast. You need to use the simple language. So all these things I learned over these 9 years in Toastmasters, and now when I'm preparing the speech, then I'm using it all.
Okay, cool. You mentioned about you'd spend about 4 hours to 6 hours, like the last two would be kind of rehearsing or whatever, for a 45-minute speech. Could you break that down for me?
So how much time I spend on different...
How you would actually do what that entails.
Okay.
Doing a 45-minute speech, you're spending 4 hours, so what exactly do you do?
So first off, I start building things in my mind. So whatever idea comes to my mind, I take the note on my phone. So I don't count it towards preparation. So that's the pre-preparation phase. So once I think I have enough ideas, or even if I don't, but there is my deadline, which is like 2-3 weeks before the speech. I sit down with first I start with a computer, so I open the document and just type in everything I have in my mind, or what I do, if not everything is as clear as I would like it to be, then I try to build a mind map by my hand. Then I have the structure. Then I start to build the structure. So the ideas, the stories behind. So for me, I always start with the ending. So what message I wanna give to the audience, and in such cases the message is already given. So I have to build all the story, all the speech according to the message I need to give. And that's how I start to build my ending. And typically I write my ending word for word. Then I start to build the opening, and typically my preferred way of opening the speech is to start off with a story, like immediately, without any welcomes, anything. I start off with a story. So, and I typically, what I do is I ask people to imagine if they were in that story, what would they do? So it's all I-you relationship. Mm-hmm. You bring the connection immediately. So that's what I do, and that's typically that takes me around an hour or so to do the really first draft of the structure. So after that I already know what's my ending, what's my opening, and what are the stories I'm going to tell. Then the next thing, I'm trying to just give the speech, like, improvise. Then I see if the stories fit, they don't fit, if they connect to each other, they don't connect to each other, and it's another hour to just briefly check if this works. And typically the speech in that version is like probably 1/3 of the final version of the speech. So I really cut the stories to the minimum and check if they work. Mm-hmm. So that's another hour. After that, I really write the next that's the final brief, that's the final plan of the speech, and that already includes the word for word opening, word for word closing. And then I list the stories with the key phrases, with the key points, and that takes you another hour. Then I do a little bit of rehearsing to check the wordings, and once the speech is done, then I start rehearsing. So it's sometimes less, sometimes a little bit more, but for 45 minutes, it's like 4 hours of designing the speech. Okay. So what I do sometimes when I cannot use any story of mine, which is much easier because when you live through something, it's much easier to speak about it. But when I need to use someone else's story, or as a known story, or speak about something else, the worst thing is to speak about something abstract. Then I really need to write it. I typically write the story. In the end, in the final version, it's not always like word for word, but I just write it to get used to the flow, to get used to the words, and that takes more time. In the story, in the speech I'm talking about, which I'm preparing now for, I use only my stories, so it's relatively easy.
And when you're rehearsing, do you rehearse in front of somebody? Do you record it, and then, or is it just that you're just kind of speaking to see what it sounds like?
I used to do that. I used to speak to. I went to my Toastmasters club to try out the speech or the shortened version of the speech, and I was giving the feedback and I was trying it out again. Now since I'm performing a lot on non-Toastmaster stages now, it's much easier for me to expect something. So I don't really rehearse in front of the public my speeches, because I'm used to the big stage now. So it's a different story now. What I do is I really need to get used to remember where the key phrases are and how the links between the stories are. So I rehearse to get in the flow. And then on the stage, it's just happening. So I'm much more comfortable on the stage, even the stage when I speak in front of people I don't know. I feel much more comfortable than I used to before. So before, when I was doing my first, second, third non-Toastmaster speech for the large audience, I was actually rehearsing the whole speeches. So, for example, I'm a member of Professional Speakers Association in Poland, and we have this yearly event, the flagship event, which is called Festival of Inspiration. And I was, since 2013, I was participating in this. I was giving a speech on that Festival of Inspiration. This is the first year I'm not on the stage of the Festival of Inspiration, because there is a room for others. And I was, for the first time, when I was giving the speech for 600 people for the Festival of Inspiration, I tried it 3 times in Toastmasters, and it was 18-minute speech, so not a very long speech, but I was giving it, and first time I tried it, it was totally disaster, because apparently people completely didn't get what I was trying to say. So I corrected it, I totally rewrote it, tried it again, I got better feedback, that I improved, and I tried it the 3rd time, and then I was ready to come and get on the stage, on the big stage. Because what happens on the big stage is when you have like a headlights, like a stage lights, I'm totally confused. First time I went on the big stage with the stage lights, I got totally confused. It's really like a big stage, like 20 meters times 5 meters, and you're on your own on that stage. It's a different stage than the Toastmaster stage. You need to get used to that. And now that I did it really a few times already, so it's not a big deal. I can get off the stage and still be in touch with the audience. So yeah, I do my own rehearsing.
Yeah, very nice, like a dazzled rabbit sometimes when you have the light shine. It's actually strange, because I've been on a few occasions where, and you might see the first 2 lines, but you don't see the rest.
Yeah. So for me, that was the biggest surprise when I went off for the first time on the big stage, that I can't have the real contact with the audience, because I like to see the audience. And if it's like 100 or 200 people in the audience, and you still can see them, but it's like 600 and you have these stage lights, no way. And I had to get used to that. That was probably one of my biggest challenges in public speaking overall, to get used to the stage lights.
Okay. When I was in the competition, I had wrote to them beforehand asking them, will it be a microphone or will it be the headset? And they couldn't confirm. And as it turned out, when I got there, they had neither. And it was an angled stage. And normally the feedback I get is I'm not too loud. So what I did is I had a few people, I said, look, put your hand to your ear if you can, but I really project, and it actually worked grand. But I'm just curious, because you have spoke in lots of locations and to different audiences, the difference between, like, say, speaking normally with a microphone and with that headpiece.
My preference is to have the headset. Yeah, that's definitely the preference. If I don't have it, if I have to speak with microphone, I can do it. I also learned to do that. That's not that difficult. It's much easier for me than to get used to the lights. But whenever I can, I speak without the mic. So, for example, there is a room in the Technical University in Łódź which holds 200 people. and actually this is very well. The sound is very good in that. The acoustic of that room is very good. So I insisted on speaking without the microphone. Of course, I have to speak a little bit louder, but I can. So I also learned how to speak louder for like 1 hour, and that's not a big deal. And I adjust to the conditions of the rooms. But really, definitely, my preference is to speak with a headset.
And I haven't had one, but I might in this district competition. But I've seen some people. I don't know were the cheaper versions or what, because we even ordered one for one of the clubs so that we get used to it. But I haven't used it yet. And some people kind of say rest it to your chin, and others it's just right in front. Is it that when it's a professional one, it just sits right in front of your mouth?
It depends on the headset, because there are there's different equipment. So there are ones with a long wire, which are really designed to be in front of your mouth, and there's these television ones which you either attach it to your shirt, for example, okay, or to your vest, or you stick it like here in the middle of chin, and they are almost not visible. And these are the best ones. So they are totally expensive, but these are the best ones. So sometimes on our conference, we have on Toastmaster conference, we cannot afford a few thousand zloty equipment, but we can afford a few hundred zloty equipment. So these are typically those with a longer wire, with the microphones in front of your mouth, and that depends on the design of the equipment, not on your preference.
And I have seen, I'm not sure in a Toastmaster event, but I've seen different places, because I got a lot of events where halfway through the battery runs out or it breaks or something like that. It must be terrible if you're in a competition doing a speech and it conks out halfway through.
Yeah, so that's a nightmare. Indeed, that's the nightmare, and it happens also at the district conferences, which is supposed to be prepared to the best possible quality. But sometimes it doesn't. So there are scratches. The voice is lost. Typically in the contest, when there are technical problems, the speaker gets another 30 seconds. But sometimes it's not enough. What needs to be done is actually there is testing before. There's always a stage check before the contest, and it's really something that has to be done by the technical team to check the batteries, to not even to check, but to put the new batteries into the equipment. Because the last thing you want is to call off the contest, repeat it because of the technical failures.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, because I'm thinking, I always kind of envision what could happen and just how you would react. And the thing is, would you grab a mic or would you just start projecting your voice? Because for me, if you were halfway through your speech and then you have to go again, because it just doesn't feel natural then, and I don't think you get the same. I think I would see, could I be projecting my voice or grab a mic and just continue and just kind of not let it knock me, rather than saying, okay, let's start again and fix this equipment.
Yeah, so basically always as a backup there should be a handheld microphone. So that's the probably, and it depends on the room. Now at our district conference it might be 350 people and it can be a big room, and even if you project your voice, even if you are really speaking loudly, it might not be enough, because the room might be so big that it just might not be enough. So you need to have a handheld as a backup, but people don't like the contest. They don't like handheld because they rehearse the speech, they learn it by heart with all the gestures and everything. So once they have one hand busy with a handheld, that destroys the whole, let's say, the whole effect.
No, because I never rehearse my speeches exactly. Each speech that I've done in this competition has been, let's not say totally different, but they're different. And that's why I was asking about the mic, because I do a lot of gestures, I use comedy a lot, and to have one hand taken up, it can really affect your performance.
Absolutely. People can do it. If you are really professional, that shouldn't make an impact. but we are not professionals in Toastmasters. In Toastmasters, we are trying, we are learning. And if you have something that is unexpected and you really try hard to win the contest, because there are people who really care for it, and there is a technical failure, then you just don't like it. I mean, there's in the rule book of the contest, that's not the grounds to call off the contest. And it always depends on the contest chair, how we are going about it. So that's a terrible thing. The technical failures is something that should never happen. We are humans.
Exactly. And you mentioned about the Speaking Association of Poland. I've never heard it. I presume it's only in Polish. Is there an English version of that? Or?
Yeah, so the Polish Speaking Association is actually in Polish. So when we meet, we speak in Polish. When we have our meetings, we speak in Polish. We give trainings to each other. We speak in Polish. But that's an association. It's a formal association where we gather people who do public speaking by profession. So we have trainers. We have really the speakers, the keynote speakers who earn their living by giving speeches. And we gather together to support one another, to bring up the ideas. But our main goal of existing, our main goal of this association is to promote the culture of the good spoken word, of because we see what we see not only in Poland, but what we see generally. There's a lot of people who can get on the stage to get rid of their complexes. So we don't want that. We want people on the stage to share value, not to cure their mental illnesses sometimes. Yeah, which happens, which we frown at, but it happens. But within our association, we really promote the culture of spoken word, and we also give awards. Like we have a yearly award for the best speaker, for the best speaker for a male speaker, for a female speaker, and we also have a special award, a tomato, for those who give great speeches but no value, who have great potential but they don't use the potential in a right way. So we say by giving this award, we say we see you, we notice you're doing a great job, but you provide no value.
I love that. We should do that in Toastmasters, because I've seen people like beating other people in a competition, and one person has an incredible message that can change the world, and another person is talking about, I don't know, say hamsters or something like that, and they win because they have all the tricks and everything. So
yeah, true. So that's what we do. And the other thing is, we like twice a year we have an open workshops, which we do non-profit. So all the trainers, we meet for 4 days, and there's typically 8 or 9 trainers who give their modules, and we invite people to practice the public speaking. They spend a lot of time on the stage, and they get a lot of feedback from professionals, so from all of us. And if you compare it to the regular trainings, they are cheap, because it's around 1,000 zloty, 1,000 something for 4 days training from professionals. And it's because we don't pay ourselves for doing it. We do it to realize the mission of the association. We just need to pay for the room, which is typically a theater, and we need to pay for some food, for some snacks, and we reimburse the travel for the trainers, but we don't pay them the money. So that's why it's relatively not expensive comparing to the regular training, where you have to pay a lot of.
No, I've seen some that are $5,000-$7,000 for 4-day events.
Yeah, so we do it for free for us. So it's not for free for others, because we need to pay to organize that event. And the second edition was in Poznan in January, the beginning of January. What I do at this event is typically I start off. I open with the basics of public speaking. So I give 3-hour module on basics of public speaking, and then all the parts that I'm covering are taken into the more details by my colleagues from the association during these first 3 days, because the 4 days is a contest. So we ask the participants to prepare a 5-minute speech, to get on the stage after they learned everything they learned over the first 3 days, and they give a speech and then we give awards also.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we do. It was the second edition. The next edition is in Torun in beginning of July.
And is this organization just a Polish thing, or is it an international and you're the Polish version of it?
There is a Global Speakers Association, and the members of Global Speakers Association are the local associations. So we also, to some extent, aspire to become a part of GSA, but it's not our main focus. So it takes time. There's a lot of requirements for the local association to become part of GSA. But once at certain point we will probably get there, and GSA is obviously an American association, but we do it locally. We do it for local, I would say.
No, very good, very good. And I actually wanted to go into detail of the different positions you have, but I see that like we're up to 50 minutes already, and I know that people don't want to be listening to an hour and a half podcast and everything.
If you cut it down, it will be 30.
So what I will definitely do is invite you back in a few months where you can actually talk about the roles and what they entail, because I know it'll benefit not only Toastmasters but people that can see what advantages of doing it. So what I want to do is thank you for all the advice that you have given us, and I appreciate you coming here.
Yeah, hope I can join you next time soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Roy.
So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you enjoyed this episode, if it gave you value, please share it with your friends if you think they'd benefit from public speaking. And we appreciate if you could give us positive comments on iTunes or whatever platform you're listening to. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Speaking Podcast, and all episodes are on speakingpodcast.com. Until next week, take care.